All right, hi everyone. I just introduced myself. My name is John Coughlin. I'm on the community relations team at GitLab. Really excited to be here today for this meetup where Michael's going to show us best practices in GitLab CI/CD. At GitLab, one of our values is diversity, inclusion, and belonging. We want to make sure that our community is welcoming to everyone. And so we ask that all folks who participate in our events, whether they're in person or virtual, abide by our community code of conduct. I just shared a link to it in the Zoom chat. I ask that you please take a look at it. If you need to report any violation, which I hope we won't have to do, you can send me a DM in Zoom, or you can email evangelist@gitlab.com. I'm going to put that email address in this Zoom chat as well, and we'll work to resolve your concerns as soon as we can. Yeah, so for folks who aren't familiar with GitLab, I'll just do a quick overview. GitLab's a complete DevOps toolchain delivered as a single application. So you can think of it as having your whole kind of DevOps platform in a single interface. There's one kind of conversation, one permission model. We have thousands of features always releasing on the 22nd of every month. So adding new features all the time and making existing features better. And I think you'd be really impressed, if you're not familiar with GitLab and taking a deeper look at what we do, because it can really do a lot. Some other cool things about GitLab: it's an open core company. So we have like a free open source version that people can use and contribute to. So everyone can contribute to GitLab, whether that's development or documentation, translations, organizing events for our community, speaking at meetups, writing blog posts. There's lots of different ways you can contribute. And if you're interested in getting more involved, please email that address I shared, evangelist@gitlab.com, or reach out to me on Twitter, or Michael on Twitter. We'd love to help you get started contributing to the community. Some other cool things about GitLab, where I used to say we're the largest all remote company in the world, but there are a lot of all remote companies in the world right now. So we're one of the largest, all remote companies in the world, and certainly the largest that's always been all remote. Yeah, and we have really cool value of transparency. So everything that we do is done, out in the open. So you can see our roadmaps, our strategy, how we run our business. Even our employee handbook, which is 5,000 pages and counting, is publicly available to all of our community. So I would encourage you to check that out if you're new to the GitLab community. As I mentioned earlier, Michael's going to be walking us through a best practices in GitLab CI/CD workshop and demo today. So really exciting to see that. A couple of small requests before we get started. If everyone could keep their cameras on as long as they're comfortable being recorded, that would be great. I'm sure Michael appreciates seeing you, maybe laugh or not laugh at his jokes, depending on how good they are. It's also just nice to see the reaction, of the audience with some of the cool things that are going on in his demo. Please keep your microphones muted unless you're going to be asking a question. As I mentioned earlier, it'd be awesome if folks could share where they're joining from in the Zoom chat, so we get a sense of the kind of scope or size of our global community. If you're going to tweet about the meetup, use hashtag GitLab Meetup, and I'll also put Michael's Twitter handle in the Zoom chat, since I'm sure he'd be very happy to see a lot of tweets about how great his talk was, or not great, depending on how it goes. And yeah, last thing, just close your tabs, mute Slack. Relax and try and be present, because this is going to be a really cool presentation today. So without further ado, here's Michael.
I cannot share my screen, John. Sorry about that. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Can you make me the host? Better. Thank you. Now you should be able to see my browser. And with that, I'm still hoping that the presentation works well enough. Actually, it's a workshop. So the first thing I'm gonna do here is I'm sharing the slides with you, and I'm inviting you to follow up the slides and the exercises, especially because there will be some which you can practice at home later on. So let's just start over here. Short overview in the agenda. We'll do a short introduction, the first steps with CI/CD. Then I have a Go projects and some tests. A little bit of self-practice, and then what's next. And I'm hoping that I won't be exceeding the 25 minutes, but I'm known to be talking endless. So if there's anything you want to ask me in between, just shoot. Otherwise, we can collect the questions in the Zoom chat, and we'll go over that later on. A little bit about myself. My name is Michael. I'm a developer evangelist since March 2020. Before that, I was working quite a long time in the monitoring area, and I found it really convenient, really nice to follow the everyone can contribute storyline. When I'm not engaging on any social media channels, you might find me on building a new Lego model or something else around it, or just enjoying the Nuremberg area, the countryside. With that, let's start over, or let's dive into the workshop. Just some preparations in case you want to continue working on the exercises with me now. You need a GitLab.com account. You can actually use the repository which is linked inside. Either you just click on there from the slides, or you hop on my GitLab.com profile. You need to fork the project, and then you can continue working on. I've shared the URL for the presentation in the Zoom chat already. If you cannot follow it, or I'm just talking too quickly, which can happen, you can do the exercises asynchronously. So they are self-contained. And if you want, you can also use the slides or exercises for your own workshops, for your own meetups. Be inspired, just repurpose the content. It's free for everyone, and it should be easy to learn about GitLab. So for the first steps with GitLab CI/CD, you're probably aware of that, or you maybe have heard of it. When you start working on a new feature, you probably get an issue assigned, you create some commits, you work in a feature branch, you create a merge request, and then you commit your changes. And in the best way, you have some sort of automated test runners and also CI jobs, continuous integration jobs, which help build your application. Maybe even some security scanning, and it goes on with review apps, staging deployments, and so on. So this is the whole DevOps lifecycle, software development lifecycle, whatever you may call it. In the end, it should make your life easier as a developer, as a release manager, as an ops team member, especially since code should be tested quite fast and quite easy before it reaches production. So for the first thing, or the first step, when you want to start with CI/CD, it can be quite overwhelming. So one of the things I'm trying to encourage is start simple. Don't be overwhelmed and say, I need to build my Golang project or whatever project is now. I've read 1,000 Stack Overflow threads and Google posts. No, we just want to start simple. And by that, we're gonna just move into the project now. And I found it super convenient to use the web IDE. It's a little hidden over here, which is a browser embedded IDE, a web interface basically to edit the source code. And I want to add a new GitLab CI configuration file. Let's just ignore what's in there. We want to just try out how GitLab CI works. So we want to add a new file and say we are using the .gitlab-ci.yaml file. We're just going in there, and I want to just use the simplest example as possible. So I will be using a Docker image, and for the sake of the smallest version, I will be using Alpine and the latest tag. And then I'm defining, let me just quickly check what the exercise says. We want to define a test simple job on the top level. This is the job name. And we want to execute a script which actually executes exit 1. With that, just saying test simple, and it's super convenient because the two spaces are automatically transformed by the web ID. I want to execute a script, and then I want to execute exit1. The next step is I want to actually run that, and before doing so, I need to commit the change. I say, okay, I'm adding a CI configuration, and I'm committing this to the CI test branch. I also want to create a merge request to see everything highlighted in there, and I can assign it to myself. I can assign a milestone labels and so on. Right now, I just want to commit that. I submit the merge request, and I can see that the pipeline has already been started. When I click on that, I can navigate into the pipeline overview, and I can see, oh, in this case, it failed. So the question is, why does it fail? And I can go inside the job view, get an idea of what's going on. So the GitLab runner is starting up. It's pulling the Docker image, which we defined previously. It does some preparation steps, and then it executes exit1. Exit1 in the Linux or Unix world is actually an error code. So in this example, it's expected to fail, but we can actually see that it failed. In order to fix it, let's just navigate back into our merge request. And we can also, whenever the job failed, open the web ID from the merge request, getting a diff view in this example. And over here, I can edit the GitLab CI YAML file now, commit the changes in the same branch, fix CI config. Exit0 is the OK code, actually. And then we can see, hopefully over there's the rocket icon for the pipelines. I can see that the test pipeline is running, so I'm not leaving any context or something else which would irritate me. I can just see that the test job is being run. And can I go over here? Yeah, I had to press refresh all the time. And we can see the pipeline worked again. The job succeeded, everything is green. So that's for the first, try things out. How do things work? What is it up with, any containers and jobs being run? This was actually this example, and we also did a deep dive into this one already. So the next step would be to dive a little further and say, hey, when I want to add certain parameters or instructions to jobs, I can influence that with environment variables from the CI job. So one example would be to define the variables entry, and for example, define the build type, name it, give it a value called release, and then print it. So if I want to do that now, let's just see, we are going back to our merge request, which we had over here, and we can just continue as we go along. We could either merge the merge request now, or we continue working inside, and we say we define variables. I think I called it release type. Was it release type or was it build type? It was build type. Okay. Build type, and this is release. And the job should be test var, and the script being run is just a simple echo, echo dollar brackets and the build type. We can write exit0 or not. This will be the default inside, and we have a second job defined inside. So when we commit that, add CI variable test, we again see that this is being committed, and it immediately triggers a new pipeline run. And we can see that actually 2 jobs are being executed. Both are running in parallel right now in the same stage. And actually, I want to go over here and I'm looking at it a bit, and I can see the echo build type variable prints out release. So everything in this regard has been working. So this is just a simple example how to test drive GitLab CI CD. And it also helps to onboard new team members and someone who is not familiar with, for example, a YAML configuration or anything else. And it's super convenient not to throw everything at them. If you're getting thrown at with more code, you might, for example, import a specific open source project or project from SVN, from different Git repositories, and you don't know if it builds. It has never seen any CI/CD system before. Yeah, and it's just unclear what's going on. And one of the first things I normally do is when I get some code where it's unclear to me how it works, I kind of inspect it, I read it, and when analyzing it, I say, okay, it's Go code, for instance, and I want to add a CI/CD config. So before we dive into the exercise, just to do a quick overview over the source code, we can see that we have some Go code inside. So there's a main Go for executing something and some Tanuki and version Go code, and we don't know whether it builds or not. So the exercise would be, we want to add a new GitLab CI.yaml file with the configuration for the Go project. Now, I don't want to write everything down which is needed for building Go code. And the good thing is, we can actually reuse the built-in GitLab CI/CD templates for that. So when we are navigating back to the web IDE, and we are, in this case, adding a new GitLab CI file, we can just say, I want to use a template, and I'm searching over here for Go, just picking Go, and this generates, or just imports the template for me. I need to do some changes in there. One is setting the variable name, the variable repo name to the name of the repository. So for me, this is my nickname and the name. If you have forked the repository now, you'll need to change that as well. So this part is basically your namespace, your username now. And the second thing I want to change is, where is it? I want to change my binary to Tanuki, because actually what we're going to build is something Tanuki related, which we will be executing later on. And with that, just looking at it, we have added the first CI configuration. And we're going to add this to the CI-config branch, and we'll create a merge request. Okay, and we also want to submit it now. The CI jobs should have been started, and when we navigate over here, we can see, changed a bit, we have a test stage where the format is being run on, and then there's a build stage which compiles the source code. Let's just peek in there. Okay, the Docker executor image pull is taking a little longer. The thing is, it might build the Go code now, or it might not. Let's just see what's going to happen. And it doesn't look that good. So the steps, it basically does, it prepares the environment, it does some formatting checks, and then it tries to build the code, and it says, well, there is an undeclared name, and I'm probably missing a package. So the thing is, the format job should be, yeah, the format job failed, and therefore the build job did not execute yet. So I need to fix it. Luckily, the merge request is also linked inside. And let's just open the web IDE again. You can also do the steps in your own preferred IDE or on the CLI or whatever you prefer. For me, it's just super convenient to do everything in the browser. And the thing is, I don't want to edit the GitLab CI YAML now, but the missing import is inside the main.go file. And since I created the exercises, I already know what's going to happen. I need to import specific, this one is the first failing iteration, and this one is the second one. I need to import the packages, and just to make it more convenient, without typing that much, I can just import that. Just uncommenting it again, and we're gonna fix the build. Not the best git commit message, but actually this is what we're gonna do. Now, again, let's just see, we're triggering the pipeline again. And let's open it up over here. Now I know how to end up with Meetups. Okay. A little bit of waiting. Just checking in. Okay, we have fixed it. This is the explanation actually what we're gonna do. Yeah, then we're gonna run it. Let's just see whether the build was fixed. If you do have problems with slow runners or just slow job execution, we also have added a new documentation for CI efficiency or pipeline efficiency, which is also linked in the slides. And we can see, okay, the build succeeded, and it should have triggered. This is something I'm navigating back. It now should attempt to build the Go code, which again happens in a separate job, in a separate sandbox environment, just sandbox environment in the container environment. And you get the reliable results every time. So it's basically the same environment to run the jobs all the time. Okay, and if, for example, the cloud runners are slow, you can also install your own GitLab runners in your own virtual machine, be it in AWS or somewhere else, and connect it to the gitlab.com account, or you do a self-hosting, which allows you to put it on harder, and not on harder, on stronger hardware as well. And as we can see, we have built the files now, and it actually created an artifact which is called Tanuki. If you download it, it would actually be able, would actually be able to run it on a Linux host, because this is a Golang binary right now. On macOS, I will be having problems, but one could make that happen. In a sense of making this happen, we actually want to run the generated binary ourselves within the CI job, just to see what's the output, what are the tests being run, and so on. So in order to achieve that, we can edit the GitLab CI YAML file, and we can see we have a deploy stage over here as well. So the format is being run in the test stage. The compile job is being run in the build stage. And last but not least, we want to define our own run job, which runs in the stage deploy. And the script, we want to run /tanuki, which is actually the binary which gets generated over here. The artifacts are passed between the jobs, that's fine. And we want to commit that again. and CI at run job, for instance. Okay. Did it change already? Yeah, something is going on. Yeah, it took a while. Now we can see there's another job inside, and we do run again. So it's it's kind of a gamification and an iterative process involved. And I would advise you to plan some time on getting things started, trying things out, especially because I would say the perfect pipeline doesn't exist. And yeah, another thing which can be added or should be added when you are creating code or statements for unit tests, you can also tell GitLab to pass the output for the test coverage. This can be done within the settings for CI/CD and the general pipeline. And it says test coverage passing to the Go example. So for example, in my project, where I need to navigate into my settings and CI/CD, I do have, where is it? Was it general pipelines? I think so. Over here, I've already set that for this project. So this is basically a regular expression to extract that, and then it can get visualized in the merge request in the output. This is one way of integrating this, and as you can see, you can use Ruby, Python, lots of programming languages which can be passed and put this outside. Yeah, and the thing is, the Go code or the project already provides us with unit tests which are being run, and I can actually add a unit test which provides a coverage report into the repository. And I want to be, I cannot be lazy because this is a presentation. Okay, then I kind of go over here and I want to copy paste this into the pipeline is being run. The pipeline is being run. Perfect. Short context switch. We did run the pipeline, and yeah, we can see that the Tanuki has been summoned. So if you are seeing that it's success, you can skip everything else. No, this should be possible with inspecting the tanuki.go code. And the thing I wanted to show you, we do have the merge request, which is this one. And we open up the web IDE once again. And we do have the Tanuki Go code over here. We have some test functions over here. So this is basically a little bit deep down, everything which gets tested. And for the unit test code, and I'm running out of time a little, I just want to add this one over here. And in the sense, in the hope that this is the correct YAML syntax now, we want to add test coverage report. And this is actually the CI scope. And we should be able to see, yeah, it's being run. Let's open it up over here. And the test stage now got 2 jobs. The format job is being run, and it also triggers the unit tests. And the idea of that is, by generating the coverage report, it outputs the test coverage report on stdout, basically on the runner log, if you want to call it like that. And then GitLab parses that, and we can actually see that in the merge request or in the output of the pipeline. Again, this now takes a little while, and while it takes a little while, it doesn't actually, it was pretty fast. We can see 73.5% of statements are being covered. If you change that, or if you add functions later on, which do not add any test code, this decreases over time. And this is a way of inspecting this and checking it during code reviews, for instance, to ensure that tests are being written and everything is awesome, basically. So now I've been hopping too much between things. Let's just go over here again. And yeah, I was about to say that you can run the unit tests on each commit, push, or merge request. It's basically fully integrated. These events trigger that. You should be able to add test coverage. You can dive even more into, for example, JUnit integration, which grants you the nice overview about the tests inside the pipeline view. So you can actually see how many functions are being tested and how often this failed and so on. And the code reviews, or the entire review process, should be starting once the tests are completed. So when something fails, it doesn't make sense to start a review, for instance, if you can see that someone is working on that, or me, the developer, gets a notification, oh, the tests have been failed, so I need to fix it before I actually assign a reviewer for the merge request. The next few slides are for self-practice. So I'm leaving you, or I'm giving you a little home exercise now. Having heard about the JUnit integration, I've prepared an example in the GitLab CI.all.yaml file. And this is a kind of a pre-compiled exercise with everything you would need to type. Otherwise, you can add a new function, integrate it, see that the test coverage decreases, and later on you fix it by adding a new test. This is prepared in the repository as well. And last but not least, I want you to try it out about the test coverage and pipeline status batches. So you can add that directly into your GitLab project. And when you're done with that, I want you to take a screenshot of what you did and tweet it to me, please. And with that, what's next? Last slide. This was lots of things about CI. CD covers things or topics where this would probably take me or take us 1 week to discuss everything or dive through. You should look into environments with staging and production environments, look into review apps, getting an idea what it does, GitOps monitoring and security, and last but not least, and I'm kind of clicking that now, here are the pipeline efficiency docs, which have been written from a previous webcast. And there are many best practices you can also leverage for existing pipelines. When you struggle with things, yeah, just let us know how things go in your CI/CD journey. And with that, a little over time, but right now I would say thanks, and I'm waiting for your questions now.
Thanks, Michael. There's actually a question from John Weiss in the chat. John, do you want to verbalize that question?
Yes, thank you. So I noticed through each step of the job that there's a Docker image pool, and I wanted to know if there's a way to cache between steps so that that Docker image pool is just the same one used between steps, so it's saving time and consumption and CPU consumption for the GitLab.
I don't know if you can really cache it when the job is being run, because it really starts a new environment. One thing you can do is right now I think I've been pulling from Docker Hub all the time. I have, to be honest, I don't know exactly how GitLab.com is configured in the background. One thing you can do is put the Docker registry into GitLab, because you can use the package registry and you have it side by side. So the GitLab runner actually has zero latency to the registry, and you can also try to optimize the Docker image size, for instance. So sometimes you might end up with 1 GB of Docker image files because it's a all-in-one package for every job you could imagine. It makes sense to optimize Docker images. This is also, I think, one part of optimizing Docker image of the documentation I've just shared. Yeah, and I think the registry has a way to cache images which are pulled quite often. So it's not pulling everything from the internet with any job again. As said, the GitLab registry is enabled by default, and should be it should help. Oh, there's a documentation. I don't know. Ah, super helpful. Thanks, John and Nicholas. Docker binding. Yeah.
Okay, that was a concern. That was a concern for me because we run a self-hosted GitLab instance with GitLab Runner, and I just wanted to keep the churn on those VMs low.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's a valuable question, also because Docker or Docker Hub recently announced rate limiting and limited access to the images. So it's also a good idea to consider building your own Docker images or CI job images, whatever you want to call it, and store them within your self-hosted GitLab registry then. So you don't have any network traffic involved, and also no latencies in Docker login, Docker pull over the internet into the cloud, backup link, internet is not working, and things like that. Because oftentimes your CI jobs might be flaky or might get false positive results, and sometimes they are related to internet outages or uplink outages. Whereas the Docker images in your registry would be just there in your DM set, in your environment, and this could also help increase the efficiency of your pipelines. Any other questions? Or was I talking too fast?
Hey, Michael, I'll ask you a question even though we're on the same team and I could ask you anytime. One thing I noticed, is as you're kind of, adding functionality to the CI YAML, the kind of pipeline like readout gets longer. And I feel like that's something, that I struggle with at GitLab. We have like a very large CI pipeline. And so the kind of, error messages and things can be hard to discern. Do you have any like best practices for how to find, like the information that you need when those, like pipeline messages start to get really long?
To be honest, I'm a heavy user of Command F, so like the searching on a website thing. One thing which helps me is to know about specific error messages. So I'm kind of, when I'm navigating back into a pipeline which failed, let's just go back and say, I want to see all the jobs maybe, and let's just pick a job which failed before. And probably this one has, so for once, I'm looking for colors. Everything which is yellow is a warning and red is an error. This is something I also try to tell people and say, hey, if you can, you should use a colored output and specific like keywords in your script, which are being run in the CI pipelines in the jobs. I'm kind of looking for error. This is something I kind of do with, yeah, just looking for error and searching for it. One way, and this is something I recently learned as well, you can like hide that. As you maybe know from an IDE, you can hide code blocks. And sometimes I'm just like hiding everything I don't need. But most often times it's just searching for an error, or there's a specific pattern. Like when you're developing C++, you might see stack traces. With Ruby, you have some sort of also stack traces, exception handling Python. So coming from the developer side, I'm kind of used what's going on. And the thing is, in this specific regard, I don't know exactly what the error is. I just know undeclared name OS. Yeah, could be everything. The good thing is, in this regard, I get the file name, I get the line number, and I get the character number. So this would be super nice if it could just link and click on it. Probably I should open a feature request for that. But in the end, I can analyze that. And I don't know if I have any other examples. But for example, for GitLab.com, for the blog, we also deploy it with GitLab CI/CD. And sometimes there is a Ruby exception inside, which is totally unreadable, and it just takes the whole page, basically. And then it's our goal or our idea to improve that and say, hey, we developers, we totally need the stack trace. We want to analyze what's going on and how to debug it. But if someone else is being on call or wants to like look into that, we need to cut it down and make it a short error message and say, hey, by the way, it's missing an import, or the YAML configuration for the backend is wrong. Please consult the troubleshooting documentation. By the way, the URL is over there. So I think it's also a matter of providing good logging, providing good error messages, not only in your code, but also in your CI jobs. And another thing, probably I can mention or highlight, if you're looking into this YAML file, it's really long. You have the possibility to move CI configuration into other files, which you can then include, which is being handled by the include template, include keyword. You can use the predefined templates. This one is actually using a job which inspects the code quality. This is something we could also add. The thing is, I think for running this on a Go code, it takes 7 minutes or something. But you get the idea, and you can see, or you can write CI configuration or CI/CD configuration, which is just like a few files or few includes. And this is being done either in your repository. So I could write, maybe just do it. I'll just do it now. I could add a GitLab CI YAML, which just includes the GitLab CI or YAML, and it doesn't like it. Okay. But let's just try that. It's irritating. Will inferior string does not match the pattern. Yeah. Okay. Let's just see if that actually works. And maybe the error message is just wrong. So yeah, I can just include that, and the thing which actually happens, so these are all the stages being run. This is actually just what's written inside. So the parser of the CI configuration collects all the expressions, all the includes, and builds AST, whatever, in the background, basically, all the objects, and this is being run. So this can be super convenient, and you can abstract it. And one thing for security and other things is you can also leverage that and provide a central repository where all the best practices, for example, are being stored for the CI templates you want to keep using just for checking specific formats or tests or other things. And yeah, this is something you can do and should do. And as Niklas mentioned, you can also include local files. I think what I just did is the short iteration or the short version of including a local file. I was just being lazy, but you can also include remote files. Just Google that. GitLab CI include, and I don't want to have the includes. And then again, I'm a friend of searching everything myself. Yeah, we have different methods, different possibilities. I can include a local file. I can use a file from a different project repository or even from a remote file. And the templates are those being provided by GitLab itself. This also covers certain static application security, dynamic application security templates, which are used for secret scanning, dependency scanning, security scanning, and so on. And everything which you can see in the Auto DevOps CI/CD templates as well.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Michael. I do think the templates that GitLab offers are another kind of great thing for folks that are new to using GitLab CI to take a look at. Because those can help you get up and running even more quickly and are good places to get started.
Yeah, and I think on the blog, we also have a blog, GitLab, the 3 tips with YAML. Because I was reviewing the merge request lately. This is a most recent blog post. I collaborated with Chrissy and we collected some additional ideas how to benefit from writing YAML and linting, keeping it simple. And this goes a little further from using templates with extends and anchors. So it's a little advanced, but it's worth a try and worth a look to not to duplicate everything, because oftentimes you might just create a job which is then being like instantiated somehow 10 times, like thinking of creating binary packages and saying, hey, I have a Debian job and this is actually being built for Debian 9, 10, Ubuntu, and something else. And then you go along and do the same for Red Hat, Fedora, and SUSE, and maybe even other flavors. This can also help in this specific sense. Other than that, templates are the first iteration or the first step to improve your life, and just reusing the YAML configuration, or actually it's code, so it's kind of infrastructure as code as well.
All right, any last questions before we wrap things up? Okay, I'm not seeing anything in the chat. So one thing I like to do at the end of meetups is ask folks to unmute their microphones and just give our speaker a round of applause. So if you'll join me in saying thank you to Michael. Great job today, Michael. Very, really good presentation. You definitely were flying through that. I was impressed that you were able to cover so much and stay organized. So thank you for the preparation and for delivering a great session today. For folks, that do have follow-up questions, I'm going to put my email address back in the chat box again, evangelist@gitlab.com. Feel free to reach out with any follow-up questions that you have, or reach out to Michael on social media. I'm sure he'd be happy to hear from you on Twitter. And I just wanted to give like a little PSA for these virtual meetups. You know, we really love kind of being able to connect with our community. And these virtual meetups are a great way to do that during these kind of, you know, COVID days. We expect to keep doing this for the long term, and would love for all of you to continue participating and attending the meetups. If folks are interested in being a speaker or doing a presentation like Michael did today, we'd also love to hear from you. We think it's really great when our community gets involved and kind of shows how they're using GitLab in cool and interesting ways. So definitely let me know, again, by using that email address that's in the Zoom chat, if you're interested in speaking at an upcoming meetup. You know, if you have, you know, feedback or kind of topics that you'd like to hear about, or other suggestions for how we can make the meetups better, you know, all of that is welcome as well. So thanks for being part of the GitLab community. Thanks for being part of today's event. And yeah, big thanks to Michael for a great demo and presentation.
I just want to add, I can help you create workshops and presentations for your own events. So just reach out to me. I'm happy to share my slides. We can also translate it to French or to Spanish. I don't speak it, but we can make it happen. It should be possible to just make it easy to learn everything, and it should be free for everyone.
All right. And on that note, we'll say goodbye. Thanks, everyone.